Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there.
Yeah, so we just saged. Cindy was feeling it. As soon as I started to add to this video a few, going down a little bit of a tangent, but I feel it's important, then we could sense, she could sense right away, these negative energies coming in because they hate this. They absolutely hate when videos like this are done. This is the stuff that really ticks off the controllers.
Well, they don't want people to know the ins and outs of things that are outside of our 3D realm.
Oh, yes. There's a lot outside of our 3D realm. And in fact, the majority of the bigger us is not in the body. We are much more expansive. There's so much more to every one of us than we realize. And, there's hints and clues everywhere. You just got to look. And here we see how to escape the confines of time and space, according to the CIA.
Very, very interesting stuff, according to the CIA. So they know about this, and they have for a long time.
Yeah, when you look at these alphabet soup agencies, you got to ask yourself, what's really the bigger picture here? What is really the bigger picture? And we mean all of them. All of them.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that are of a planetary level, as well as the ones that are on the level of a particular nation, apparently, because again, reality is not necessarily what we've been told. And in the 80s, the spy agency investigated the gateway experience technique to alter consciousness and ultimately escape space-time. Here's everything you need to know. So I do have the declassified document over here, analysis and assessment of the gateway process. And there's 29 pages to go through. It's interesting stuff. And I don't know if you guys have heard of the Monroe Institute, but this is fascinating. And as we've mentioned before, not only do they know it's possible to escape the reality of the confines of space and time, they also know that, and again, there's studies that have been declassified now, way back, that when we were entering the time frame that we're in now, people's abilities, as far as their psychic, intuitive, quote unquote, paranormal abilities, were going to be turned on because of the effects of the cosmic rays, the energy incoming, where we are in this multiverse, in our particular galaxy, on our sun's particular 26,000 year thereabouts cycle through the precession of the equinox. They understood exactly what's going to happen. And they understood that the veil that has enshrouded the planet is going to lift. And this is why you see every single thing going on that you see going on right now.
Yeah, it does. And this poses a problem for them because suddenly a lot of people can feel and sense and know that things are not as they seem to be in the 3D realm. They just have this knowing that things are not right, which sends people on a journey to figure out the truth. What is the truth? How does everything work? And once people find out the truth, they're harder and harder to control. And they have all these other little setups to get us hung up and get us, get us busy, keeping us exhausted at work and all kinds of different things so that we can't really explore our abilities.
And, there is a verse in the Bible. And again, the Bible itself is a collection of different smaller books put together and pieced together originally by the Constantine the Great, who was the Holy Roman Emperor, and he selected a certain amount, which were only really a handful of all those that were out there. And over the years, there's been so much revision that's gone on, and recognize again too that when we talk about the King James Bible, King James is a 33rd degree Mason. He was the head of all the Masonic lodges. So, recognize the controllers in this world. They control us through our politics, through our religion, and through Well, basically the health system as well. No other way to put it there. So the control is complete. They try to control mind, body, and spirit. And this is because, again, the real reality of it is that we are viewed as an asset.
Mhm.
We're viewed as property, so to speak, as we all do have our numbers, don't we? Aren't we
Mhm.
tagged? When you see cattle out there and you see a little ear tag and you could go look at the cow's number, well, you got a number, I got a number,
Mhm.
right? We have our social security numbers. We also have our driver's license numbers, and now the licenses have a higher technology to them as well. And there's more, obviously. There's so much more. It's all about controlling the narrative. And when we recognize that we can control our own narrative, this is part of it, but it's waking up the planet on a big level. So this article is talking about the intrigue revolving around the classified 1983 CIA report on a technique called the Gateway Experience, which is a training system designed to focus brainwave output to alter consciousness and ultimately escape the restrictions of time and space. The CIA was interested in all sorts of psychic research at the time, including the theory and applications of remote viewing, which is when someone views real events with only the power of their mind. The documents have since been declassified and are available to view, and we'll have that link for you. So this is, very, very wild, very, very real, and it's something that we're able to do, and many are able to do it. And when we're talking to you about these things, and perhaps we come across as being strongly opinionated on it. It's again because we have gnosis of it. Gnosis, it comes from the Greek word of knowing, knowledge, direct experience. It's because this is something that we experience every day in our lives, because we've dedicated so much time, in our lives and in past lives to working with things like this.
Mhm.
So we're able to do these things as far as Kundalini. Every time I do the mantras now, as soon as I do one, I don't even have to do a full verse. I feel my Kundalini just flow straight, unimpeded, up the spine, up to the crown chakra, and I could start getting downloads, start getting information from the higher realms, from the different densities. And Cindy and I have worked on thousands of people now, energetically, and it just gets stronger. I have spent probably tens of thousands of hours, if not more, in deep meditation, and so that just basically strengthens those connections. But anybody can do it with dedication. Of course, it really does depend on what you're putting into your body and also into your mind.
Very, very important. And to have worked on yourself quite a lot too. It is important to go in with a level head, a level mind, and an understanding of certain things. Then you want to do a lot of meditation and just a lot of contemplation. So, where is my baseline at? Where am I? Who am I? So then the other things coming in surrounding that, that that's from a different source.
Yes, most definitely. Yeah, and what Cindy's talking about is like when those words come into your mind and you haven't even had a train of thought that would lead there. Listen to that, because often that's coming from your higher self or your guides. It's coming from somewhere other than your actual brain. This is a comprehensive excavation of the Gateway Process report. The first section provides a timeline of the key historical developments that led to the CIA's investigation and subsequent experimentations. The second section is a review of the Gateway Process report. It opens with a wall of theoretical context, on the other side of which lies enough understanding to begin to grasp the principles underlying the Gateway experience training. The last section outlines the Gateway technique itself and steps to go into achieving space-time transcendence. So back in the 50s, Robert Monroe, a radio broadcasting executive, begins producing evidence that specific sound patterns have identifiable effects on human capabilities. These include alertness, sleepiness, and expanded states of consciousness. So just to share with you guys, last night we were feeling fairly energetic after seeing, I don't know, 7 people or so during the day for energy work, and as well as biofield tuning and contacting guides, things like that. And so we went to do our mantras, meditation, and Qigong after, and I was banging a big drum and also sending the vibrations into our bodies, because they have a 22-inch, and then we have like a 14-inch natural skin drums that we use to achieve these altered states, because they really do help. Again, vibration, frequency. It's all about energy. These are the keys to the universe. And it was interesting because the vibrational frequencies of doing the drumming put us into a state where we both had to take a nap.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, you could feel this going through the whole vibrations, all the vibrations going through the entire body, rearranging. There's a reason why in many, many different indigenous cultures they drum at spiritual ceremonies. It's because this can repattern, this can also help you shed negative energies, and it can get you into an altered state of consciousness, which now at this time is just so easy, and it can happen at a moment's notice for either of us. It doesn't take us any time to shift into a different state of consciousness now. And that's part of why you see this whole program going on globally across the planet, because we can do amazing things if we wake up and recognize exactly how things are being controlled. So in 1956, Monroe forms an R&D division inside his radio program production corporation, RAM Enterprises. Goal is to study sound's effect on human consciousness. He was obsessed with sleep learning, or hypnopedia, which exposes sleepers to sound recordings to boost memory of previously learned information. And mantras are so important because mantras will change our vibrational frequency, and they'll also call on aspects of the higher consciousness, the archetypal forces that are out there. And they change every single cell's frequency in our body in a positive way. While experimenting with sleep learning, Monroe discovers an unusual phenomenon. He describes it as sensations of paralysis and vibration accompanied by bright light. It allegedly happens 9 times over the preceding 6 weeks and culminates in a out-of-body experience, an OBE. In 1962, RAM Enterprises moved to Virginia, renames itself the Monroe Industries. It becomes active in radio station ownership, cable television, later in the production, sale of audio cassettes. These cassettes contain applied learnings from the corporate research program, renamed the Monroe Institute. Monroe publishes Journeys, Out of Body, a book that is credited with popularizing the term out-of-body experiences. Do you remember reading that so many years back? 72, a classified report circulates in the U.S. military and intelligence communities. It claims the Soviet Union is pouring money into research involving ESP and psychokinesis for espionage purposes, moving things with the mind. Is it possible? Yes, I do believe it is so. 1975, Monroe registers the first of several patents concerning audio techniques designed to stimulate brain functions until the left and right hemispheres become synchronized. He dubs it the hemisync and claims it could be used to promote mental well-being or trigger an altered state of consciousness. 78 to 84, Army veteran Joseph McMonigle contributes to 450 remote viewing sessions under Project Stargate. He is known as Remote View Number 1, and that's a whole other story there. As you know, Cindy and I, we've done a lot of remote viewing at different times, and some of which we've shared with you guys, and some of which we haven't shared yet, just because there's some stuff too that could get us probably shut down in a heartbeat, as there's much that they don't want coming out. June 9th, 1983, CIA report Analysis and Assessment of the Gateway Process is produced. It provides a scientific framework for understanding and expanding human consciousness, out-of-body experiments, and other altered state of minds. In 1989, remote viewer Angela Della Fioria Ford helps track down a former customs agent who has gone on the run. She pinpoints his location as Lowell, Wyoming. U.S. Customs apprehend him 100 miles west in a town in Wyoming called Lovell. So, sometimes it's hard to get extreme clarity, as really the matrix is constantly changing around us, constantly ebbing and flowing and changing. And all the different consciousnesses out there affect the matrix. Anytime any of us puts our attention to anything, we start to change it.
Mm-hmm. Right. So, when she made that little tiny mistake there, you got to understand she's translating the information that's coming into her. So, for her to make that's really, really very good. Because when I work on people and contacting their guides, I don't always get names, because names are a man-made construct, and we're not dealing with that. We're dealing with vibrations. So, when I'm reaching people's guides, I get feelings of who they are, what they're about. I see pictures, and things of that nature. But that's really, really interesting. She got so close there. That's really good.
And so that's an interesting thing in and of itself. What she was saying there is basically beings are not a name. It's not
Right.
It's not John, Peter, George,
Right.
Mary.
Yeah.
Beings are a frequency.
Yes.
They're a specific frequency. Each one of us is a different frequency, a different vibration, a different pattern, a different resonance. 2017, CIA declassifies 12 million pages of records. 12 million pages. Do you think they would take the time and the effort to investigate something with 12 million pages that they're allowing us to see? And it's not a nothing burger? Of course, this is the biggest, thing really going here, is understanding the nature of consciousness. And so that eventually became known as Project Stargate. And there's more here too. But all we have to do is really just look over to, for instance, the 7 Hermetic principles. And we've talked about the Kybalion many times. I think I've made about a half dozen videos on it over the years. And it's all right there. And of course, in the West, it's been hidden mostly, or had to be hidden, because you would be burned at the stake. You'd be boiled alive. You would be drawn and quartered. You would be persecuted unto death, because it's part of the control grid. And this is why we keep harping on it, is because as long as we're going to accept one portion of their control grid, then we're not out of it. We're still in their matrix. The 7 Hermetic principles: mentalism. The all is mind. The universe is mental. There you go. Correspondence, as above, so below. Vibration. Everything moves. Nothing is at rest. Nothing ever stays the same. There is never, a period in time ever where there is nothing that's not changing. Everything is always changing. It's constant. The ocean never stops moving. And the ocean of consciousness is the same way. Polarity. All things are dual. All opposites are reconciled. Rhythm. The ebb and the flow pervade the all. Cause and effect. Everything happens according to the law of, basically karma, dharma, cause and effect. And it's not that it's a vengeful, angry God. No, it's just simply the law of cause and effect. This is how things work. Everything is going to interact with each other. Gender, everything has a feminine and masculine element to it as well. So, these are the principles that are explained in the Kybalion. Hermetic philosophy of ancient Egypt and Greece. And, there's a reason why they burned the library at Alexandria. The Romans, again, were an expression of the same control grid that is here right now. Right now. It's the same control grid. The Roman Empire never, ever really left us. It's just morphed. And really, it goes back to Sumeria. And it goes back to, the group that starts with an I, ends with an I. And then people will say, well, historically, that started with this Bavarian dude, Adam. Yeah, no. This goes way past that. This goes way, way, way farther than that. And again, who is writing this history? Well, they are. But then again, they have to kind of let us know everything. It's up for us to delve a little deeper. So when we see things like this, beautiful lotus flower at the bottom, you have the two intertwined serpents, and right away, people of a fundamentalist persuasion, they'll see serpent and be terrified and not understand that this is basically descriptive of the Ida and the Pingala, the two nadis of polarity that run through the body, intersecting at the chakras, that when they are in balance, then the flow of Kundalini energy, the divine Shakti, which again, the lotus expression down here, the Shakti has to rise upwards to unite with the Shiva. And the Shiva is pure consciousness. And the Shakti is the manifestation of that consciousness. Then we get our wings. Then we're like the angels themselves. And we see the references of this everywhere. So whether we want to call it Shiva and Shakti and Kundalini, or we could also look at it as the Shekinah and relate it to Yeshua and the Christ consciousness. As you see again here, that each one of these chakras is actually governed by a divine archetype. And they also are gateways to different densities. Again, we are so much more than we're led to believe.
And I've known that since I was a very, very small child. I knew that there were things about the human body that were very mysterious and not understood. It's that knowing. It's that following your DNA memory. What are you curious about? What really makes you tick? What do you want to learn about? And that's where you start following your DNA memory and your ancestral lineage.
Exactly. And it's the key. It's the key. Why do we always see halos around the saints? It's because their crown chakras are open. This is why. Now, in ages past, more people were able to actually see the aura, the emanation of light around the body. And now more and more people are again, because we are exiting that dark age. The key is right there. It's the heart. And Yeshua and Buddha were both about the heart chakra and compassion, teaching us that that is the key to allowing the flow of the energy from the spine, from the base of the spine, that's just divine potential, to go upwards. And we've talked about all these things so many times as we look at the pine cone, we look at, the flower of life, the tree of life, we're going to talk on too. They all know this. They all know this. Staff of Osiris, staff of Dionysus, staff of Bacchus, all these myths and legends. And we see the Anunnaki, Assyrian gods holding pine cones. They're masters of interdimensional travel, really.
Yeah.
This is what they can do.
Mm-hmm. And why do you think there's like this huge, huge pine cone at the Vatican?
Yeah, why is the huge pine cone at the Vatican? Why is there also the Dyson sphere
Yeah.
at the Vatican, which is all about harnessing the energy of the sun? It's all about consciousness. So when we talk about these beings like the Anunnaki, they're primarily on 4D. So they're primarily in where we are in the dream state. That's their primary residence. We've gotten that some can go up to 5D. But primarily 4D. And we are now transversing upwards. And it's not just, in the West, we see the same references everywhere you look. It's all the same references, the staff of Hermes or the staff of Mercury or the AMA. Whether we're talking, whichever mythos we're talking, it's all about consciousness. That's it. The ancient civilizations knew all about the third eye being the key, the seat of the soul. And in Qigong, again, as I've shared with you guys, we have three main reservoirs of life force. And the first one's the lower dantian, about 2 inches below the navel. That's a heavier, thicker sort of energy, primarily concerned with the physical body. And then we have the middle dantian between the solar plexus chakra and the heart chakra. And that's the emotional energy reservoir as well. First, we have to have the physical overloaded initially to draw it up to the heart center where the Christ consciousness is. Then we could draw it up to the seat of the soul at the third eye. And that's where the Shen resides. That's where the true spirit resides that will take whatever we can bring into our body, absorb in, and basically keep it into when we exit the body. Whatever we could draw up into the upper dantian will help us when we're out of this physical 3D body. It stays with us. So, in a way, we come here to learn and to work, and then we really do take the fruit of our effort into the next venture. And the ancients understood this, and the controllers, they do everything they can to hide this. Mm-hmm. It's all about the pineal gland, which, in medical science, it's serotonin and melatonin, as they're showing there. And of course, if we have trouble sleeping, some people might go grab some melatonin, mm-hmm. Because that's going to help us sleep. And serotonin production is basically a happy, feel-good, positive secretion. Mm-hmm. Hinduism, the third eye, again, this is what we're teaching. This is what they've always been teaching. This is what's been confused. We go through the different yugas, and thankfully, the dark age of Kali is much smaller than the golden age of Satya. And we see Treta and Dwapara. So presently, we're basically getting our footing in Dwapara. So we're heading into a better time period than we have been in, where we're in this dark cycle. And we've gotten from the Galactics, from Laurel, she has verified that the cycle of the yugas is real. And well, what happens every time we come down into this area, we get trapped in another version of this matrix. Mm-hmm. And, that makes me think of the movie The Matrix. It really is pretty damn accurate in many ways. Mm-hmm. Because if you remember, the third one was very disappointing for so many people. I found it disappointing too. Because Neo and Trinity, they die in the physical sense. But then they'll keep coming back. Mm-hmm. Every time we get back into this cycle and we delve down into that darkness, there's another version of this matrix. And to put it just plain and simple, they will, and when we say they, we're talking about the controllers that are in this lower resonance. Now recognize the beings that exist here, they can't go up here. The ones that are in control of this apparent reality have been in control through the Dark Age. They can't go this high. They can't exist up here. So when we see the bright and shining ones of ancient legends, the quote-unquote gods that lived amongst us, these are beings that are up in this age that we can actually interact with in a physical sense when we're up in these ages. The only ones we see in the age of Kali are the ones that we have seen and we've grown up with. And so we are leaving that. We are leaving their grasp. And that's why they're trying to clutch onto us as much as possible, any way, shape, or form, because they want to keep us trapped in here. They want us to, they want those, as many people as possible, to not ascend out of their grasp. They would rather have people no longer be in this 3D reality and reincarnate on some other planet somewhere else that they are in control of. And that's why they're doing everything they can to ensure that, so they don't lose their herd. Again, think of the cows with the tags on them and you with your social security number. They know they're going to lose you. If things were to progress naturally, we would all be heading out of this age if there was none of this controlled interference. And they understand that so well. So when we come around, like right now, we have our dominant religions, we have our dominant political systems, and we have our dominant version of what healthcare means. That's been given to us by these beings. They will have another version of that the next time through. And it might not be the exact same version. You might not see the big quote unquote religions of the world exactly worded the same. They might have different versions of them, but they'll use the same technique of divide and conquer. They'll use the same technique politically, again, of left and right.
Right, because, well, it works. And that's where we have to gather ourselves and take responsibility for ourselves and prioritize our soul growth. Prioritize soul growth. And they're very, very good at keeping us very busy on the outside of, our world, keeping us worried, keeping us stressed so that we can't, and keeping us very, very traumatized. That's super important. That's one of the biggest things for them. Keep them traumatized so their souls cannot grow. But if we do go within, if we do understand, start getting some understanding of this, then that loosens their grip a lot.
And here you see a representation of the different lokas. Now, loka is a Hindu word for worlds or realms. And here we have Earth in the middle, right? You are here. And right away, this gets me thinking of Midgard, and it's we could relate this over to basically the Norse system. Again, Midgard, ocean, Midgard, and we see Asgard above it and the different realms as well, Alfheim, Vanaheim. Interesting, because it's all about consciousness, frequency, and vibration as to where we go. And in all these realms, until you get to the absolute, the supreme absolute, which is beyond the realm, these realms, it's really the pool of just potential. That's where you have a unity. There is an ultimate unity. There is an ultimate one source of all the consciousness. But again, we are all individual embers in the fire.
Mm-hmm.
And so just think of sparks that fly off and start different fires. That's what consciousness is like. That's what source is like. Each one of us, well, we are source. Source is in us. Source is us, and we are source. But we're all different, unique expressions of that. So wherever our vibration is, like if the controllers can get us to lower our frequencies, just bathe ourselves in hatred and all the darker sorts of energies, we're going to kind of spiral down and down and down. And here you see them calling them the hellish planets, the hellish planes of existence. And we could do the reverse, like the Earth is spiraling upwards. And we could go at the Earth and spiral upwards and then start to get to the realms, as you see, of 33 million demigods and demons. Still, there are darker entities still on some of the higher planes. They can only go so high. And so, just like with the law of one, if you look at service to self, service to others, in the law of one, you can find some that are in service to self that are even up in fifth density. At some point, though, you have to kind of shift and go into service to others to, go all the way up the whole, well, if we use this analogy, the whole way up the world tree, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all about consciousness, all completely about consciousness. And lucid dreaming is controlling the storyline of your dreams. It's knowing you're in your dreams. Now, there was a time period when I was getting tormented as a little kid by, Greys. The Greys and others were kind of trying to get me into a fear-based reality, and so they were tormenting me. And my guides told me to turn that around, recognize the power that's within, take control in your dreams, for instance, and then you could take control also in your life and recognize that life is a waking dream.
Mm-hmm.
We think this feels so real, so solid, but in reality, it's always changing and conforming to our consciousness. So one of the things to do is to try to get control of your dreams. And so I heard that clearly from them and began to do that. And, recently I've had some amazing lucid dreaming experiences that do translate to this particular reality that we see. So there's some clues here that can help you with taking control. And I'll give you guys the links there. But, some basic things: follow a sleep schedule, exercise daily, avoid electronics before bed, create a relaxing sleep environment, avoid caffeine and alcohol before bed, and keep a dream journal. Write down as soon as you wake up. As soon as you wake up, let yourself relax, almost drift back into sleep, and then recall. Because many people will say, I don't dream. Everybody dreams. You just don't remember. And so this is a key that can help you most definitely get control of your nightmares, for sure, but also with other things too, like astral projection. And Robert Bruce has written many books on that. Astral Dynamics was the first one I read of his. Mastering astral projection. Great techniques, great ways that we can get ourselves out of body and experience things in a meditative state.
And here we go. Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live. Oh my gosh.
When we look at the control matrix, it does unravel if we look deep and we really understand what is going on here. As we know, the Abrahamic traditions, well, they control the minds of more than half the world. And if you have more than half the world adhering to a particular belief system, then you really have a control grid in place. And again, recognize that everything has been revised and edited so that those beautiful nuggets of knowledge, like the 7 churches representing the 7 chakras, Jacob's ladder being all about ascension up to where? Pineal. There you go. It's all in there. It's all in there. What Yeshua said, I and the Father are one. And he didn't say, and you're not, only I am. Because he also said, greater things ye shall do. You got to look closer. There's the controllers come in and they take all the gold and turn it into lead. The opposite of, they don't want the true alchemical process happening. They want the lead. They don't want you having the gold. They want the gold for themselves. And that's another allegory there to the Anunnaki, perhaps hoarding all the gold, as gold is all about raising consciousness. Think about the gold and aura of the halo, what we see around the ascended masters, the saints. Well, yeah, don't suffer a witch to live. That's an Exodus. Yet, what's witchcraft and sorcery really? What is it really? Is it not basically making reality your own in some ways? Most of the witches were just natural healers that knew how to use herbs to heal people, as well as perhaps understood that there were elemental beings all around them because they were in tune with Mother Nature. They don't want you in tune with Mother Nature. That makes you a dangerous person, because then you have a very, very powerful ally. Well, how about Moses when he throws his staff down and it turns into a serpent? Is that not witchcraft? Okay, well, again, don't we see that with our leadership today? Do what I say, not what I do. There's another case of it. So Moses cast his staff upon the ground and it turned into a serpent. So Moses can control Kundalini, but you can't. Or the controllers can control and utilize Kundalini, but you can't. We're told, thou shalt not kill. Yet we see in the walls of Jericho and Joshua, they put to the sword every man, woman, child, young and old, ox, sheep, and donkeys. Well, why did they do that? Because they say God commanded them to. Well, whatever happened to thou shalt kill? They don't count?
Right.
How hypocritical is that? Think for yourselves, people. Wake up. Wake up. Think for yourselves. Get past the condition. Why does the Quran say that infidels should be killed? Look into it. Islam and Christianity, they're all about collision course. It's an all too perfect storm. Go out and basically spread the word. There's one truth. Both of them think they have the truth. Well, you can't be saved unless you have Jesus. And if you don't have Jesus, who his name was never Jesus in the first place, there's power in the name of Jesus. Well, his name wasn't Jesus, it was Yeshua. But you were told to go out and spread the good news. Yeah, we should be spreading the good news. We don't have to stay in this matrix. All we need is a heart-based reality and recognize what we're being controlled by outside forces. We're being put at each other. That's the good news. Not that there's a certain dogma that you have to say a few words, you have to get a splash of water, and now you're good. You could go out and Do whatever. You could rape and pillage under, in the name of God, as Constantine did, and so many after him, so many popes and kings professed themselves to be devout Christians and went out and slaughtered countless people. No, I mean, that is pretty much the definition of insanity when you get to it. And, where is the love in all this? I will cast terror into hearts of those who don't believe me. Therefore, strike off their heads and strike off every fingertip. There's not a lot of turning the other cheek there. Again, Islam means to submit. To submit. In other words, there's no thinking for yourself. There's no feeling for yourself. You have to follow the ritual we tell you, the dogma we tell you. And this is what leads to 100 million Native Americans killed in the Americas as this system gets imposed globally. Why? Well, they basically worshiped Father Sky and Mother Earth. They were in tune with the earth. They could sense the weather. They understood elementals. And there's legends all around both North and South America, and it's other indigenous people in Africa and all over the world.
And this is one that's really bothersome to me because they come over, Christopher Columbus, they come over and they say that they had to tame these savages. Yet, look what they did to them.
They were the savages. The system is the savages. It all reverts back to the Tower of Babel. And, look, the people of the earth are united. And then the word is Elohim, came down. The mighty ones came down to see the city and the tower that the sons of men were building. And the Elohim said, if they have begun to do this as one people speaking the same language, then nothing they devise will be beyond them. And it's just so obvious. And the Elohim said again, if they begun to do this as one people speaking the same language, nothing they devise will be beyond them. Perhaps because they spoke the same language, they actually had activated Kundalini. They were actually able to utilize things that we can use and we will be using in the future, like telepathy. We will know what each other is thinking. We will see each other's energy bodies. So the Elohim said, again, the mighty one said, come, let us go down, confuse their language, scatter them all over the place. And what do you think that looked like? There's so many, as we were alluding to, places all across the globe where it looks like there's been nuclear warfare. We hear of the weapons of the gods that burn like 80,000 suns. And there's most definitely, if you have the intuitive ability, you can go by certain areas and people were lost their lives in mass from above. Mm-hmm. And boy, wouldn't that look kind of like some of these alien invasion horror movies right now? And when we also look and we again make reference to the fact that the Anunnaki and the Draco, these beings, the Greys too, most of these beings exist in 4D. So in a way, you could say, come, let's go down there, lower our vibrations down to 3D, and have physical form, do damage, and then go back up to 4D. And yet it's real that they can manipulate the reality because they understand the laws of physics, the true laws of the multiverse. But ultimately, why do you worry unnecessarily? Whom do you fear? Whom can kill you? The soul is neither born nor does it die. This is again from Mahabharata and Krishna talking to Arjuna. And, Krishna said to Arjuna, the difference between me and you is I remember my past incarnations. You don't, you're under Maya, under the illusion, under the veil. You don't recognize that you are not the body. You're something much, much more. So this is a temporary vehicle that we're using in this reality. This reality has been hijacked by certain beings. And, we are so much more than that. And even when we do lose the body, we still go on. But what they want to do is create the conditions so that when you do lose the body, you're not vibrating as high as you could be. And you could still end up reincarnating due to that law of cause and effect in a lower vibrational place that would still be under their control. When Yeshua was confronted by the Pharisees and the Sadducees, he told them, you're not worshiping my God. You're doing quite the opposite. You're promoting the system. You're in the system, promoting the system. Because again, he and the Father were one, because he was heart-centered and he understood his higher self. It's all about that connection, which can only be experienced if your crown chakra is open, if your kundalini is fully activated. Then you get your wings and you're like the angels themselves. And it's even said that when we are in the golden age, humans have the potential to be as the gods, the devas, the angels themselves.
Right. And, if you're one of many who have these abilities to reach these other entities, we all do. Everyone does. It just depends on what level of commitment you want to put into it. And, if anything bad ever happens to you, some people like to come around and say, well, see, you shouldn't do that because that's evil. Well, no, it's because the controllers are trying to make darn sure that we can't reach these other realms. So, yeah, in a roundabout way, maybe somebody will come and give you a really hard time, say a person in a white coat with a bottle of pills, something of that nature. But no one is bad. No one is evil if you have these abilities to, just right away reach these other entities or see different things, because that's what people like to play. They like to play the card that, oh, you're a sinner and you're evil if you can do this. There's something wrong with you. No, there's not. It's all natural in all of us.
And there are some times when people really do have mental disorders, and often it's a result of the system itself.
Yep.
Very, very, very often it's the system itself. But whether it was in the old days, look, burn the witch, or now it's time to take them out in the straitjacket and send them away to the asylum because they're able to talk to the dead, they're able to see the dead, or they're able to commune with angels and guides, this it's the same thing. It's the same control grid that's been put into effect. And it's time that we recognize it, because the biggest thing is the suppression of innate abilities that we have and that are being cultivated right now naturally from source, because the energy that's incoming is ultimately from source and part of that divine plan. And it's time for us to leave the dark age. It's time for us to leave the control grid. The grid must crumble, so we must expose it. We must shed the light on it so it is obvious. And once we get to that point where the majority of the people are recognizing that, then the system totally crumbles, and then we're able to move fully into a better age.
Right.
And that's the bottom line.
Yep.
So thank you guys for being part of the family. Make sure you are subscribed, have the bell clicked. Please do check out the link that's on every video for medicinal foods, as they can help you clear out your body and help raise your vibration and frequency as well. And it does support the channel. Share, share, share. Wake up as many people as possible. May everyone that's trapped in dogma, whether that's dogma of political ideology, religious ideology, whatever that looks like, even, basically the health system ideology, may all the dogma be exposed for what it truly is, so that we can have a unity that has been just kept from us for so long. As always, guys, God bless and namaste.
Namaste.